All right, so are you ready to travel back in time with me? Because today we are taking a deep dive into Judges chapters 4 through 6. We're talking ancient Israel, epic showdowns, and some seriously bold people you won't soon forget.
Oh, absolutely. These chapters are like a masterclass in leadership under pressure and the complexities of faith. And let's just say getting a little creative when you're facing down your enemies.
And, I love a good underdog story. But before we get into who conquered who and how, can you give us a little historical and theological lay of the land? Set the stage for us.
Absolutely. So we are in the thick of the book of Judges,
Hmm.
which chronicles this period after the Israelites arrive in the Promised Land. Now you might think, Promised Land, happy ending. Right.
Right.
Not so
There's
fast.
always a catch.
Isn't there always? The Israelites kept finding themselves in this repetitive cycle, turning away from God, facing oppression as a result, crying out for help, and then God, in his infinite compassion, would raise up a deliverer, a judge, to set things right.
So like that rinse and repeat setting on a washing machine, but with a lot more divine intervention, obviously.
Exactly. And chapters 4 and 6, where we're starting our deep dive this time, literally begin with the phrase, the Israelites again did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So whenever you hear that, you know things are about to get interesting. This time around, the source of their oppression is Jabin, a Canaanite king with a truly terrifying weapon in his arsenal, 900 iron chariots.
900. Okay, now that's just showing off. I can see why the Israelites are shaking in their sandals.
Oh, you better believe it. Imagine trying to fight against that kind of firepower with, well, whatever they could cobble together back then. So this is where our first hero of the hour makes her entrance.
Ah, Deborah. Now she's a biblical figure I can get behind. A female prophetess, AD&D, a judge. Talk about shattering glass ceilings. It's not every day you encounter a woman wielding that kind of authority, especially back then.
Exactly. Her story speaks volumes about the leadership capabilities of women in a time when they were often, relegated to the sidelines. Picture this, Deborah, beneath the shade of a palm tree, dispensing wisdom and justice to the Israelites, receiving disputes and offering guidance. But Deborah wasn't content with just keeping the peace. She was chosen by God to lead Israel out of this mess and face Jabin's oppression head on.
And she doesn't back down from a challenge, does she?
Not Deborah, she's all in. But she knows she can't do it alone. This is where Barak enters the scene. Barak was an Israelite military leader, and Deborah summons him, delivering a message from God at his gut to lead the charge against Sisera, the commander of Jabin's mighty chariot force, at a place called Mount Tabor.
All right, so there's always a but coming, right? I'm guessing Barak wasn't exactly eager to go toe-to-toe with all those chariots.
Well, you know it. Barak might have been a military man, but even he had his limits.
I can't say I blame him. Those chariots were like a total game changer.
Oh, absolutely.
So what does Deborah do? Does she give him a pass?
Not a chance. Deborah agrees to go with him, but she throws in a little twist. She prophesies that the victory, it's not going to belong to Barak. It's going to belong to a woman.
Ooh, okay, now you've got my attention. A mystery woman. All right, give me the details. I need to know more.
So the woman's name is Jael. She's the wife of a guy named Heber, the Kenite.
Okay.
And the Kenites, they were this nomadic group. And their relationship with Jabin and the Canaanites, well, let's just say it was complicated. And they weren't exactly best friends with the Israelites either. So picture like a messy love triangle, ancient Near East edition.
Ooh, intrigue. Okay, so how does Jael, our nomadic heroine, end up in the middle of this whole battle?
Well, picture this. Barak and his forces, empowered by Deborah being there, they managed to actually defeat Sisera's army.
What?
But Sisera, he's a survivor. He manages to escape
Okay.
on foot.
Ooh.
He flees for his life, and he ends up seeking refuge in, well, the most unlikely of places, Jael's tent. He assumes he'll be safe there, protected by those ancient codes of hospitality.
Wait, seriously? He's putting his life in the hands of a woman whose people are literally caught in the middle of this whole power struggle. That takes some, I don't know, serious guts. Maybe just a healthy dose of desperation. What does Jael do?
This is where things get really interesting. Jael, bound by that sacred duty of hospitality, she welcomes Sisera into her tent. And remember, in their culture, offering refuge to a stranger, even an enemy, this was a huge deal.
Wow, talk about pressure. That's intense. She is literally harboring the enemy, in her home. This is way more than just choosing sides at this point. I need to know what happens next.
Okay, so this is where that infamous tent peg comes into play.
Okay, now we're getting to the good part. Don't hold back. Tell me everything.
All right, so Sisera, exhausted and, trusting in her hospitality, he asks for some water. And instead of water, Jael gives him milk, possibly a strategic move, to make him a little bit drowsy.
Oh, wow.
Sisera, totally oblivious to, the danger he's in, he asks her to stand guard at the entrance to the tent. Turn away anyone who comes looking for him.
That's talk about bad judgment. You'd
Yeah.
think a military commander would be a little more discerning. What was he thinking?
Right. So once Sisera falls into a deep sleep, Jael, she grabs a tent peg, pretty standard tool for nomadic people, and a hammer. And she drives that peg straight through his temple, pinning him to the ground.
Wow.
Just like that, the mighty Sisera, the commander of 900 iron chariots, is defeated, not by an army, but by a woman, just as Deborah prophesied.
Wow, what a way to make a statement. I mean, she took down a powerful enemy who was oppressing her people. But the way she did it was, well, pretty hardcore. I could imagine people's opinions on Jael's actions are probably a little divided.
Oh, you could definitely say that. It's a scene that has sparked debate for centuries. Was this an act of incredible courage? A strategic, masterstroke? A desperate move for survival? Or a brutal violation of that sacred hospitality? The text itself doesn't really pass judgment, kind of leaving the interpretation up to us.
It definitely makes you think.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jael is defeated. The Israelites are free from oppression, at least for now. Where do we go from here? Who's the next judge to step into the spotlight?
Well, you wouldn't believe it. A few chapters later, the Israelites find themselves in need of another wake-up call, with a brand new oppressor to worry about.
Oh, boy. Here we go again. Who are we dealing with this time?
This time, it's the Midianites.
The Midianites.
Making life really difficult. Nomadic people from the east,
Right.
infamous for their raiding parties and their vast herds of livestock. So imagine locusts, but with camels, descending on the land and just devouring everything in sight.
Okay, ouch. Not the camels. That's rough. I can only imagine how devastating that must have been. How did they end up on the wrong side of these camel-riding raiders?
Well, remember that cycle of disobedience we talked about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back, in full swing. The Israelites have once again strayed from the path, and oppression at the hands of the Midianites, well, this is the consequence. This time around, they're forced into hiding, seeking refuge in caves and mountain strongholds, just trying to survive.
Man, that is a serious low point. It feels like every time they start to get back on their feet, they end up right back in survival mode. So who steps up to the plate this time? Who's the unlikely hero that God chooses to pull them out of this mess?
Get ready for this one, because our next deliverer is a man named Gideon. And he is, well, a far cry from our previous hero, Deborah. If Deborah was confidence and charisma, Gideon is, well, let's just say a little bit more relatable.
Okay, I'm definitely sensing another good story here. Because what's a good biblical narrative without a healthy dose of human self-doubt, am I right?
Exactly.
So paint me a picture. What's Gideon up to when he gets the divine call to action?
Okay, so picture this. Gideon is hiding in a wine press. Not exactly a heroic setting, secretly threshing wheat, desperate to avoid, any unwanted encounters with the Midianites. It's about as far from a glorious battle plan as you can get, right?
Right.
Suddenly, out of nowhere, the angel of the Lord appears before him and says, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior."
Mighty warrior.
Yeah.
Seriously. I think in that moment, my response would be a little something like, are you sure you've got the right guy?
And that's exactly what Gideon does.
Right.
He's full of doubt, questioning God's presence, wondering why on earth his people are going through such difficult times. Classic human response to the unexpected.
So how does God respond to Gideon's, let's call it, healthy skepticism?
It's interesting. God is incredibly patient with Gideon's doubts.
He's got experience.
Right. Doesn't get angry. He doesn't get dismissive. Lays out his plan. He tells Gideon that he is going to defeat the Midianites and deliver Israel. But Gideon, bless his heart, needs a little more convincing.
And this is where the whole famous fleece thing comes in, right? I've got to admit, it's one of those stories that really sticks with you.
Oh, absolutely. So Gideon, in all his humanness, asks for a sign. And not just one sign, too. Talk about needing some reassurance.
Wow.
First, he lays out a fleece of wool and asks that only the fleece be wet with dew in the morning while the ground around it is dry. Then, almost as if he can't believe it, he asks for a do-over. This time, requesting that the fleece be dry while the ground is covered in dew.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Even in the face of doubt, he's engaging with his faith, testing his limits, trying to understand what's being asked of him. So does God humor him? Does he deliver the signs?
He does. God, in a remarkable display of patience and grace, grants Gideon both of his signs. Such a powerful visual, the fleece soaked in dew while the ground is dry, and then the opposite. You can almost feel the weight of that moment, the undeniable evidence of God's power and faithfulness.
It's a good reminder that doubt isn't the opposite of faith. It's just a part of the journey. Sometimes we need that tangible reassurance, that fleece moment, to fully step into what we're being called to do.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's what Gideon does. He overcomes his fear, rallies the Israelites, and leads them against the Midianites. And you want to talk about clever tactics. Gideon uses some really ingenious strategies to outsmart his enemies.
Man, I wish we had time to get into all of that. That'll have to be a deep dive for another day. But for now, if we're looking back at these incredible stories, what would you say are some key takeaways?
Well, I think what I find so fascinating is how these stories, they reveal these different faces of leadership.
Correct.
Deborah shows us the power of bold, unwavering action. Well, Gideon's journey really highlights, I think, the importance of wrestling with doubt and seeking reassurance. And both, in their own way, demonstrate that God can work through anyone, regardless of their background, their gender, or even their initial willingness to answer the call. And we see that cyclical nature of faith and doubt, obedience and disobedience, woven through the very fabric of their journeys.
It's that reminder that our own journeys of faith, well, they aren't always linear, are they? There are ups and downs, moments of doubt, and moments of incredible clarity. But ultimately, it's about finding that courage, to move forward, trusting that there's a greater power at work, even when we can't see the whole picture. Maybe the next time you're feeling a little lost or unsure, you can think back to Gideon and his fleece. And remember that it's okay to ask for a sign, to seek that reassurance. Who knows? You might just find yourself a part of something extraordinary.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.